Who's coming? Excellent. Excellent. So here's where we're going to start today. Uh, I mentioned that we're going to do just a very quick review of what we ended off with last week. We said that chapter 2 of Pirke Avot, the Ethics of the Fathers, chapter 2, towards the end, had a very nice teaching, and it said, what is the best way for a person to avoid sin? What is the best way to avoid sin? And that was to consider the fact that there's an eye that sees, there's an ear that hears, and how you doing there, Robert?
Hello, sir.
Good to
Hello,
see you.
everyone.
Yeah, good to see
Shalom.
you. Good to see everybody. It's really nice. Yeah, so we said that the best way to avoid sin is to know that there's an eye that sees everything, there's a ear that hears everything, and all of your deeds are recorded in a book. So that would be a way to make yourself conscious of the fact that whatever you're doing is being observed, it's being heard, and not only that, but it's being put in your permanent record, you know? So I think those are pretty effective ways to kind of watch what you're doing, watch what you're saying, watch what you're watching, that kind of a thing. And what we're going to see is that there is another Mishnah or another teaching which actually is in chapter 3, teaching number 1. It's interesting. I can point behind me and show you about 20 different volumes of Ethics of the Fathers. Some of them are in a volume with a few other tractates of the Talmud, if you will. Most of them are standalone volumes of Pirke Avot, the Ethics of the Fathers. And sometimes the way the chapters and the Mishnahs or the teachings are broken up is not necessarily consistent with how another one may break up the teachings. So that's why, interestingly enough, what I'm going to teach next and share with you is really the beginning of chapter 3, Mishnah or teaching number 1. But it will contrast with what we just talked about. Best way to avoid sin, think of an eye that sees, an ear that hears, and everything that you say and do is recorded in a book. So here is a parallel teaching, and it is taught by a great sage whose name was Akavya. Akavya, that was his first name, and he was the son of Mahalalel. Now, the word Mahalalel has as its suffix one of the names for God. El. El is one of the names for God. Mahalalel could be somebody who's a praiser of God. Lehalel in Hebrew is to praise. So it could be that uh, calling him the son of Mahalalel, maybe Mahalalel was not necessarily his name, but maybe he got that name because he was known as a consistent praiser of God. And the same with the first name. Hello, everybody who just joined. Good to see you. It could be the same with his first name, Akavia. Why do I think that maybe it's like a nickname for some quality that he had? I've never met another Jewish male with the name Akavia ever. So it's kind of strange to have a Jewish name. What was that? Scott, you were saying something? Okay. Yeah, I've never met anybody with the name of Akavia, so maybe that wasn't an actual name, but it was a term that maybe symbolized one of his greatest qualities. I'm not really sure. Anyway, he lived in the days of the Second Temple, and that was about 2,200 years ago. And he also had his formula about the best way to avoid sin. And he said the following three things, each of which we'll need to look at a little bit deeper than just the surface message. He said, Histakel bishlosha divarim. Look at three things, which doesn't mean to look at and to observe three things. It means to, in a sense, be aware of three areas or three questions that you should ask yourself. Be aware of three areas that you should ask yourself. And in that way, you will not come into the grip of sin. So again, this is a parallel teaching to the one we just reviewed. And his three things to consider are A, know where you came from. B, know where you're going. Those two kind of go hand in hand in a sense. Know where you came from, know where you're going, and know before whom you will stand to give a detailed accounting of how you spent your life. So that third part, know before whom you will stand eventually to give a detailed accounting of how you spent your life, is very, very similar to the idea of know that all your actions, words, etc., are all recorded in a book. In other words, whatever you do, whatever you say doesn't just disappear into the ether. No, everything has a consequence and it's all recorded. And eventually, using Akavya's teaching, and eventually you'll have to give an accounting before the Holy One, blessed be He, of how you spent your life. What did you do? What did you not do? What did you achieve? What could you have achieved? Etc. But the first two parts of this teaching of Akavya are rather interesting, and we have to understand what does he mean by them. Know where you came from and know where you're going. So, what does that mean? Anybody want to take a stab at it? Know where you came from. What is the benefit of that? Or in your understanding, having just heard it 2 minutes ago, what would that mean to you? Know where you came from.
I suppose it means being aware of our mortality and our weakness as human beings, and know that we won't live forever on this life, in this life, and I suppose to count our days and live in a way that's wise.
Okay, so thank you. You've addressed perhaps more accurately the second part of this three-part teaching.
Yeah.
Know where you are going. Know where you are going. Say the commentaries. Uh, where is everybody going? So it says in the teaching, to a place of dust, worms, and maggots. I mean, it's very,
Mm.
very specific and very, very graphic, which in a sense echoes, Patrick, what you just said. Yeah, know where you're going. You've probably noticed that nobody gets out of this world alive, generally, right? That's generally pretty dependable. Um, but know where you're going means everybody's got a period at the end of their sentence. So if you're aware of the fact that you know where you're going and you're going to a place that's not so grand, dust, worms, and maggots, perhaps that will help you be a little bit humble. You can be the billionaire of the century. And now I think I read somebody who has amassed a wealth of $220 billion. Is that possible? Has anybody read something like that? I just read it yesterday. I may be off by some zeros.
Elon Musk, maybe.
Not Elon Musk, it's somebody else, so I don't remember his
Or that
name.
Larry thing from Oracle.
Is that what it is? 220 billion?
I know.
Even if we're off a few zeros. So I guess what the teaching is saying, you could be the wealthiest person on the planet, and your end is the same as mine.
Yeah.
So that can engender a certain level of humility and lack of haughtiness, where
Mm.
we all end up in the same place, and it doesn't matter how much or how little you have, we all end up in that place. So, Pat, yeah, you've zeroed in on that aspect of it. Know where you're going. We're all going to the same place, so don't be so high and mighty, uh, and as high as you think you are, that's as low as you're going to end up, so to speak, physically, unless your body is disposed of in a different way. We all end up, they tell the joke about the crossword puzzle expert who passed away, the crossword puzzle expert who passed away, who was buried six down and eight across. Okay? That's unless you're disposed of in a different way, that's where six down and ate across it. That's pretty much where we all end up. So what about this part of know where you came from? What could that mean? Know where you came from. What could that mean to us?
All right, I've got an idea. Well, for me
Okay,
personally,
go ahead.
uh, I look at my humble beginnings growing up, where I grew up, the way I grew up, and realize I don't want to go back to that. I want to achieve more, be more, and so when I look back to see where I've gone, I see how far I've come, and all the obstacles that I've overcome,
Overcome.
all the
Mhm.
obstacles that I've overcome, and it builds my faith because I'm able to look back on, well, Hashem didn't fail me here. Hashem didn't fail me here.
Oh,
Why do I think? Why do I think that He's going to fail me now when I'm in the
wow.
same position I was? He's all these times back here. He's proven Himself. So why am I struggling now with it? So my faith has grown expansively because I'm able to look back, going, I've never not gone without a meal because of a lack of funds.
Mhm.
My kids have all done well. They all wear, you know, wear modest, solid clothing. None of it is, you know, shredded, and our toes aren't poking out of our socks unless we're just lazy and don't want to go buy more. You know, and so that's my looking back.
Wow. I like that. I like that a lot. You said that beautifully. Can you wrap that all up in like a little nugget? So you won't come to sin if you consider where you came from, meaning now the little nugget.
Okay. Um, well, if worry is a sin, remembering all of Hashem's faithfulness to you would cause you not to worry.
Lovely. That's a beautiful thought. Um, Great. Thank you for expressing that so well. It interestingly, we'll get to your comments in a moment. Interestingly, that's not where the teaching goes. As beautiful as that was, the teaching goes in a little bit of a different direction. But now I'm happy to hear what Robert and Patrick have to say, and anyone else. So, Robert, what were you? You had your hand up.
Okay,
Yeah.
very good. This is really a good message for me.
Okay.
Today, today I'm going to a shiva,
Wow.
and yes, and
Somebody died.
this is my very first one. And I've been to a lot of Gentile funerals, and I pretty much know the procedure, what to do, how to do, and when to do. But today will be an experience for me. And I just like
Wow.
to share that one of the things that has always interested me about funerals is the fact that, at least Gentiles, you got a body there. And what happened to the person or soul that was in that body? And that always makes me wonder. Now, learning a little bit about the Hebrew scriptures, the soul becomes extremely important. So that prompted me to do a lot more research on that. A body, but the body, is dead, but where's the soul? And the
Yeah.
soul is left. So that has always piqued my attention and my curiosity. So that's one of the things that I'd like to talk about just a little bit. Uh, the soul, is the soul the spirit, or is the spirit the soul, or is it a combination? But we do know that the body itself stays here and the
Yes.
soul goes. And that purpose of the soul um, has always piqued my curiosity. So it's a good lesson for me, and I probably have a million questions, and I don't want to tie up everyone, but this is very, very good for me. So I appreciate it.
Okay, I appreciate how well you expressed that. I'll just give you 60 seconds about the teaching of the soul. Um, in Judaism, there's a teaching that says that the soul, or the nephesh, if you want, is in Hebrew, the soul has five parts to it. Thank you for not asking me the names of the parts. They all have Hebrew names, and I don't remember them all. But perhaps what people find most interesting is that the one part, the lowest part of the soul, always remains with the body, and the other
Mhm.
four wherever they go. The reason I mention that is because people sometimes will say, I went to the cemetery to visit whatever, and one could ask the question, like, what am I visiting? I'm visiting the fragile house of clay that has remained here. But it's more than the fragile house of clay. It's the house of clay that still contains a piece of the soul. So you're actually making a spiritual journey when you go to the cemetery. It's not just uh, and one of the prayers that we say at a Jewish funeral is that the body returns to the ground, but the spirit returns unto God who gave it. So
Mhm.
one could say that the spirit or the nephesh or the soul would be like the battery of a car. Gorgeous car, $220,000 Lamborghini. I may be low on that, I don't even know. But without the battery, good luck with it. You're not going to get
Mhm.
across the street, right? So in a sense, the soul, from the Jewish point of view, is that which animates the body, and often there is the soul and the body are not in sync. The soul descends from heaven. It has heavenly desires and heavenly wants, and it wants the body to do all the things that it can do to connect with God. But the body, as we know, we're kind of fragile, and we're very often distracted by the glitters of the world, and our bodies often want to do things different than what our soul would love us to do. So often the body and the soul are in conflict, in a sense. But well, listen, this is your first Shiva visit. Shiva meaning seven. There is a
Seven.
seven. There's a tradition that families, when an immediate relative dies, in the Jewish families, they sit in their house, and others come to them. Others come with food. Others come with sentiments, etc. The first day of the burial is considered the day of the burial is considered the first day, and then you have another several days, and then the morning of the last or seventh day, even if you're just sitting in your home, not yet involved with the community, society, etc., even if you're just sitting there for 1 hour, that's considered like the entire seventh day. It happens to be a brilliant, brilliant institution to cause people who are in grief and mourning a chance to disassociate from anything and everything and be the subject of extreme sympathy and empathy, and people bringing food and people sitting. You can sit 5 minutes, you can sit 12 hours, whatever it is. But it's the community's response to, as best as we know what you're going through, that kind of a thing. So, yeah. Well,
Very
I'd be
good.
interested.
Thank you.
Sure, I'd be interested to know after you make the trip, if you want to write or whatever, how it was for you. Be very interested to
Yes,
know. Yeah,
yes, for sure.
yeah. So, Patrick, you were going to say something that related to the idea of know where you came from.
Yeah, it just prompted a thought, Rabbi,
Yeah.
a reminder from Psalm 51,
Okay.
David's psalm, after he sinned with Bathsheba. He says, verse 5, I was brought forth in a state of wickedness. In sin, my mother conceived me, and from my beginning, I too was sinful, which, really sums it up, I think, in a way.
Right. So,
So,
how does that relate to if you know where you're coming from, you will um,
well, I suppose
distance yourself from
we know
sin.
Yeah, I suppose the nature we inherited from Adam is a
Oh,
sinful nature, and that's the way that we're born. But praise God, it's possible to live in a way that you do spend eternity with God, and your spirit goes to be with God. So, but just to try and answer your question about where are you coming from, where have you come from, and where are you going to?
okay. I like that. Very nice. So yeah, so where did you come from? Might be a good way to remind yourself that maybe your beginnings may have been, I think this is a word in English, ignoble,
Yeah,
not
yeah,
not so noble. That doesn't mean you have to be stuck there.
no,
You can greatly improve your life spiritually and in many other ways. So maybe know where you came from is an important idea to know that you don't wherever you came from, you don't have to be stuck there. And maybe that will help you to distance yourself from sin. Interestingly enough, the teaching on this know where you came from is also different than that. So I'll tell you what it says. It says know where you came from. And this is again in the teaching in chapter 3, Mishnah or teaching 1. You came from a putrid drop. That's the actual translation of the Hebrew. You came from a putrid drop. So, uh, Mr. $220 billion, try not to have such a head that you can't seem to enter any room because the opening cannot fit your head. Try not to be so arrogant about it because you came from that. That was your origin. You came from very little, and you're going to maggots and worms. And so you kind of see how these two are bookends. Know where you came from. You came from and it says in the translation of the Hebrew, putrid. That's where you came from. That was your origin. And where are you going? Maggots, dust, worms. Both of those put together as bookends are telling us don't be so haughty. In other words, don't become a god unto yourself. There already is one. There already is one in the world. And actually, on Rosh Hashanah, one of the things that we do in our prayers, the word king, melech, I might have mentioned this last week too, that the word king occurs in our liturgy, in our prayer book for Rosh Hashanah hundreds of times. And one of our jobs as a Jewish community, or those who celebrate Rosh Hashanah, one of our jobs is to crown God as king. Crown God as king. So I taught this to my high school girls this past week. And I said, what does it mean to crown God as king? Why does God need a crown? And one girl said, well, it's possible that the ways we behave personally or spiritually knock his crown off, and then we wear it because we think we're so great. I said, wow, for an 11th grader, that's pretty good. That's pretty good for an 11th grader. The way we behave sometimes tends to knock his crown off his head, and we say, no, we're the boss, and we crown ourselves with God's crown. So, yeah. So if you know where you came from, a putrid drop, and you know where you're going, um, a place of dust, worms, and maggots, this will put you in a place of humility, and humility opens you up to greater connection on a spiritual level. Does that make sense in general? Good. So, yeah. Um, so again, where are you going? Where do you come from? And now this last teaching before we leave this Mishnah, know before whom you stand to give a final accounting. Um, it's like I said before, it's similar to all your deeds are inscribed in a book, but the final accounting, say the commentaries on this idea, they say it's not only it's not necessarily a written accounting. It will be a verbal accounting. verbal, which is very different than a written one. Written one, right? You type it out, a little chat GPT. This is what I did with my life. Chat GPT, make this as nice as possible for the Lord in heaven. Make this sound fabulous. So it's different if you have to hand in something as opposed to you have to speak it, verbalize. When you have to verbalize it, it can lead to a lot more embarrassment than handing in a paper. So all of that put together says Akavia, the son of Mahalalel, is to help us become more humble. And the more humble you are, in the Hasidic works, they have a great emphasis on thinking of yourself as a nothing. Think of yourself as a nothing. Now, I don't know if psychiatrists, psychologists, and social workers would agree with that. And we'd have to know more about what does it mean to think of yourself as a nothing. I'm a zero. I think I've accomplished this, this, and this, and that. Why should I think of myself so low as being a nothing? And Hasidic works say the more of a nothing you are, the more you can accept the teachings of the great one, the greatest one. The more of a nothing you are, the more you can add. If you're a zero, anything you add to the zero is already something terrific and worthy. So all of that put together is Akavia, the son of Mahalalel's recipe, if you will, to distance yourself from sin and to help you achieve a greater connection with God and a greater spiritual life. So to put that together with what we started out with, and then I'll give it a chance if anybody would like to react or share a comment or a thought. The summary of Rabbi Judah the Prince, who said there's an eye that sees, there's an ear that hears, there's a book, everything is written, and what Akavia just taught us about know where you came from, know where you're going, know before whom you will stand ultimately. You put all that together, these are the things that they recommend will keep us from sin, namely, an ear that hears, an eye that sees. Think of your entrance into the world as an insignificant putrid drop, and that should somehow curtail your haughtiness. Think of your exit from the world as great or as rich or as famous as you think you were. We're all going to the same place. As I said, 6 down, 8 across. It should be a way to prevent arrogance and know that everything is written and you have to give a verbal accounting at the end of everything that transpired in your life. Now, could anybody add to that? Anybody add to that formula? Like, oh, it also is a good idea to distance you from sin if you, anybody have I don't have an answer to that, but anybody have a thought on maybe what has worked in your life to more often than not made you say, oh, I don't know if I want to do that. I don't know if I want to say that. I don't know if I want to get involved in that, whatever. Is there an aspect that anybody can add to this formula of how to distance yourself from sin?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've got a new one.
Okay.
All right. So one thing that I do is remember that uh, people are watching. Whether you know it or not, whether you see it or not, people are watching. I got a buddy of mine. Long story short, he was in a Christian motorcycle gang, and it was they were respected by the one percenters, by the other motorcycle group. And when my buddy had gone from being a prospect to a member, somebody walked up to him that he had never met before, going, "Congratulations, I've been watching you." And he's like, "You've been watching me?"
Yeah. Right.
It told him exactly where he was, and when he saw, he's like, "I knew there was something different. I just wanted to watch you."
Wow.
So there's people that are watching.
Mm.
Whether they're hoping that we fail, that they can say, "I told you so," or whether they're cheering us on, they just don't want us to have what we call gross tet, big head.
Yes.
Uh, but there are people watching, and that reminds me on a regular to to keep myself on the straight and narrow, because you never realize who's going to use you as the excuse for not going before the king.
Wow. So you're saying this is a little different than thinking of a God watching you.
Right,
Maybe parallel to that is people are watching you.
right, because it's an example. You're an example. You're an ambassador for the king. So
Yeah.
if an ambassador is going to embarrass his nation, then embarrasses the whole nation. So that ambassador needs to be on his A game at all time, because you never know who's going to see and go, oh, I knew they weren't that good, because and here's all the proof, and I don't want to be one of those proofs or excuses that they didn't come to a
Oh,
show.
very nice, very nice. So it reminds me when we were living in Baltimore, there was a kosher Dunkin' Donuts. Actually, there were two, a bigger one, smaller one. Kosher Dunkin' Donuts means that a rabbi was there on a daily basis supervising that all of the products and ingredients were all kosher. So the religious community, Jewish community in Baltimore could eat there. They had no soups, they had no bacon, ham, nothing like that. They had sandwiches of different types: tuna fish, veggie, sausage patties. Morningstar Farms looks like bacon, but it's not. So they had a whole array of different delicious foods, and a lot of religious Jewish people would go in there and order. And every once in a while, there was somebody who was visibly observant, visibly religious, who would bark their order at the person behind the counter. Bark, I want to. Yes, sir. How many of those? What? Didn't I just tell you I want half a dozen? Uh, And every time I would look at that, I would say, wow, what does the person behind the counter now think of the Jews? Forget about what do they think of him or her. What do they think of all of us now? Because that's how it begins. That's how you begin to get a sense of, you know, uh, racist comments or whatever. You see one or you hear one that gives you a certain perspective on them, and before you know it, everybody is like that. Oh, you people, this and that. So you're right. We have to be very, very careful if we are people who represent the Holy One, or whoever you feel you represent. How careful we have to be as people are watching us, because people will make mega and wide judgments about our people as opposed to just about us and our behavior. So we have to be very, very careful. So I'll add one thing and then we'll move on to the next teaching, which is chapter 2, teaching number 3, or Mishnah number 3. You may be familiar with the story of Joseph and the wife of Potiphar. Okay? Genesis 30, 35, something. Not sure exactly chapter and verse. She is trying to seduce him, Joseph. Very handsome young man. He's like the second to the emperor, the king, whatever was in Egypt at the time. And she's trying to seduce him, and he's keeping his distance. And then the Torah says, I don't remember the exact wording because I don't have it in front of me. The Torah says, one day Joseph came to do his work. So came to do his work means, he was hired by her husband to work and do and whatever. But Rashi, the commentator, the great French commentator, the 1100s, 1200s, he said, what does it mean he came to do his work? He came to do the work that she wanted him to do, means he was ready to give in to her seduction. That's what the great commentator Rashi says. He came to do his work. He was ready to give in to her seduction. Ultimately, if you know the end of the episode, he does not. He does not. He runs away. She grabs a piece of his colorful cloak, and in the end, he doesn't get involved with her. So the commentaries say, why not? He had every intention, it sounds. He came to do his work. Great commentator Rashi came to do, given to the seduction. That was the work of the day. So the commentators say, what was it that kept him back from giving into the seduction? That as he was ready, whatever that means, as he was ready to give in, he looked at a window and he saw the image of his father, Jacob. Thank you for not asking me how did that happen? What kind of an image? A halo? A hologram? I don't know. I don't know. But the message is he saw the image of his father in the window and he became reminded about who he is, where does he come from, what was he expected to do or not do, being the son of Jacob. And that was enough to make him veer away from the work that he came to do. So maybe that's something I would add to this formula of Rabbi Judah the Prince and Akavia the son of Mahalalel, is to say, if one thinks of one's parents, or one thinks of one's main spiritual teacher, rabbi, whatever it is, whatever title they have, and you think of yourself wanting to do what you want to do, and then the image of your fill in the blank, parent, great grandfather, whoever, they pop into your head, sometimes that can be a preventer of whatever you were planning to do or say. That can be an image that holds you at bay. So I would add something like that. That's another thing that could distance you or prevent you from sin. So we're ready to move on to any comments before we move on to the next teaching?
Could we not add, Rabbi, that regular daily meditation of the scriptures would also keep you?
Yeah, in some sense it sounds so basic, right? What else? Meditation on the scriptures, daily prayer, etc. Interestingly enough, neither of these two great rabbis mention that. And it could be because they assume that if you're reading the Ethics of the Fathers, you're likely already a praying person, or
Right.
you're already a studier,
Right.
a delver, That may be the assumption, but you're right. You're right. For many people, what keeps them on the path, straight, narrow, or wide, whatever, what keeps them focused on the path is their daily meditation of scripture, Torah, Tanakh, whatever the faith texts are, is to spend a few minutes a day or as long as you have to help you keep focused. And for whom am I doing this? For whom? The big WHOM, for whom am I doing this? And who's going to be proud of what it is that I'm doing? So you're right. You're right. That almost sounds like it's a given. And again, maybe that's why they didn't mention it, but you're right. Any other comment before we move on to the next teaching? Okay. Um, are any of you involved in anything political? We're not going to talk politics, except for the teaching. Anybody involved in politics? You raised money for a local council person. You yourself was on a city council. You were governor of your state at some point, or anything like that? Anybody have close relationships with people of higher governmental authority? Anybody have anything like that? Yeah. Okay. So um, I had a very close relationship. I'll just mention this for brief seconds with Senator Joseph Lieberman. I don't know if you remember him from Connecticut, a very devout Orthodox Jew who ended up in the Senate for, I think, 24 years, something like that. Anyway, he was a member of my congregation in Stamford, Connecticut. And, we knew each other pretty well. He didn't join because of me. He joined years before I ever got to that synagogue. But that's my closest relationship with anybody who is in who had any kind of a higher authority, if you will. So this teaching is going to address relationships with people of power and influence. And it's going to say the following. Rabbi Gamliel, we had him before, the son of Rabbi Judah the Prince. He was the one that said, eye that sees, the ear that hears, all your stuff is written in a book. He says the following, Heve zehirin barashut, be careful, cautious with people who govern. Be cautious with people who govern. City council, dog catcher, whoever, work your way up. Be cautious of them. Why? Because, he says, they draw you near in friendship for their needs and purposes. They show themselves as friends when they have what to gain, but they won't stand with you in times of need. So I see some of you nodding. Um, did he hit on something? This is going back 2,000 years. Did he hit on something? Be cautious of the powers that be.
Which number is this, Rabbi?
In the Chabad link that you have, it should be chapter 3. No, this is chapter 2, teaching 3. It
Okay.
should say that. Is that right? 2 and 3. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So be careful, be cautious. Beware, if we put it in 3 words, beware of politicians. Why? He says, they use you when they need you, but when you need them, they're nowhere to be found.
I think that's true.
You think that's true?
Well,
Overwhelming?
there's a famous
Overwhelming?
saying. Yeah, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yeah, right. Well, it can corrupt, but it doesn't mean that you don't have to listen to your constituents.
No, it doesn't. But I think the role of a politician is
Uh-huh.
a very difficult one.
I agree. I agree. And the higher up you go, the more you have to please. And how can you please so many constituents, so many people, so many causes,
Exactly.
so many factions? And it's very, very difficult. So some might say that Rabbi Gamliel, who's the one that gave this teaching, is he painting every elected official with the same brush? Like, is he saying they're all sincere, insincere, manipulative? They're all cunning? Are they all two-faced? Oh, while I'm running, sure, yeah. Oh, thank you for your phone number. Yeah, I'll call you about that. Oh, yeah, blah, blah. And then when they get elected, it's what do they call it? When you hear like the silence of fireflies at night, chirp, 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 chirp. When you need them, it's a chirp. They're not there, and all you hear is little noises where you expect them to be. So is he painting with a big, broad stroke of the brush? And I would say, as many of the commentators say, not necessarily, because all what he is saying is beware. He's saying be cautious, and don't be surprised when they shower you with attention in order to get your vote, and then they disappear. Everybody? No, not everybody. Thank God they're not everybody. But be cautious, be aware, and be careful. And don't be surprised if. So I don't know that there's a lot more to say about this teaching, but we do know that the father of Rabbi Gamliel, pardon me, who is Rabbi Judah the Prince, who redacted and edited the entire Mishnah, he dealt a lot with Rome and the Roman emperor that ruled Israel in those days when they were alive. So maybe seeing how his father dealt with the powers that be, maybe he learned a lot about the powers that be. watching his father, and maybe watching his father come home disappointed, perhaps. Oh, the emperor promised this and he never delivered, or who knows? Hard to know. But in general, the teaching warns that political life and those who seek power and influence befriend people as a way of advancing their own interests. And if you ask me, is that fair? I think it's fair. What may be not as fair is to just drop people after you finally got voted in. So they can play to the crowd and promise the moon. Just be careful. Don't be surprised when at the end they have no use for you. Now, was it Ronald Reagan who came up with that phrase, trust but verify? Wasn't that him? There was also a Russian phrase, I don't speak Russian, a Russian phrase that also rhymed. I don't remember the words. It sounded something like pravdivei and olmdevei, something like that. Trust but verify. There's a phrase in Hebrew. It's these two words, chabdehu, give that person honor, vechashdehu, at the same time be suspicious. Give them honor, but at the same time be suspicious, because you never know. You never know the motivations of those upon whom you rely, upon whom you voted, etc. King David said this in his words. He wrote in his book of Psalms, "Don't trust in princes or in nobles or in humans who have no hold on salvation." And he meant to say, don't rely on those in power and those that have influence. Better to rely on God. Better to rely on the Lord your God and pray to him to guide and give wise counsel to his agents that he puts into power. Don't trust in princes, don't trust go to the top. Go to the top. Whoever's at the top of the pyramid in anybody's faith, that's where you should go. You should know that in, I think, pretty much every synagogue in the world, in the prayer book that we use for Shabbat morning, Saturday morning, just about every prayer book that I'm aware of has a prayer for the government of that country. So in Israel, there's a prayer for our government. In America, there's a prayer for the American government. When I was in Australia, there was a prayer for the British government. It's in their prayer book, a prayer for the Queen. How do you like that? And what does the prayer ask for? It asks God to give wise counsel to the people who are in power. Give them wise counsel. Give them wisdom. Give them a heart that understands. Give them a heart of empathy. And let them be with the people. Let them hear the people. Listen to the people. So that's the important teaching of Rabban Gamliel. Look at the story of Joseph in the book of Genesis. He was an economic and financial genius, if you remember what he did. There was going to be a famine in the land, and Joseph says, no, here's what we're going to do. During the years of plenty, we're going to save, so that during the years of famine, we will have what to eat. And people will come from all over because we'll be the only ones that have food. Brilliant. I mean, in today's standards, one would say, duh, you think that was brilliant? Saved today because tomorrow you won't have, so that's what you're going to eat, what you saved? It almost sounds like a no-brainer, but back then, I guess it was a brainer because everybody thought that Joseph was fabulous and fantastic for coming up with that plan. He was respected and beloved by the Egyptians. When Jacob died, almost all people from all strata in the Egyptian society went with Joseph and the brothers to bury Jacob in the cave of Machpelah, which is in Hebron, about 40 minutes from where I'm talking to you today. So he was celebrated. He was the top of the heap. And then a new king arose. And what happened?
He didn't remember Joseph.
Did not remember Joseph. So Joseph was good while he was needed. And then the king, interestingly enough, the commentaries say, did he really not know Joseph? Did he really not remember what Joseph did? It was probably written in the chronicles of the country. How could he forget? So some commentaries say that the new king made himself as though he didn't know Joseph. And that's how he could begin his campaign against the Jews. He made himself, he acted like he didn't know. But he really did know, but he didn't want to take it into account because now he can start his anti-Jewish campaign. Anyway, so Joseph was good while he was needed. And after he was not needed anymore, the new king, forgot all about him. So, bottom line, be careful with elected officials. They're not all the same. Just be careful, be suspicious, but above all that, trust God more than anyone, and respect but suspect. I guess that would be the way to summarize in a very terse way the teaching of Rabban Gamliel. So, any commentary, any thoughts, reactions? Okay, good. Now we're going to probably come to the last teaching of our time today, and this is Hillel. Hillel, we met Hillel before. Um, yeah, Hillel was the one who said, if I'm not for myself, who will be for me? But if I'm only for myself, what kind of a person am I? And if not now, when? That was Hillel. Now he has a five-parter, and we'll see how much of these five parts we can touch. And thank you for not asking me, are they all connected? I appreciate that nobody's going to ask that, unless you ask it. Here's what he said. He had a five-part teaching. Number one, don't separate yourself from the community. This is again chapter 2, Mishnah or teaching 5. Now, if it's not exactly 5 in what you may be looking at in the Chabad link that I sent you, it may be one before, one after, but in the source that I was looking at, it was teaching number 5. 1, don't separate yourself from the community. Number 2, don't trust yourself to resist temptation until the day you die. Don't trust yourself that you can resist temptation until the day that you die. What does that mean? Number 3, don't judge your friend until you have been in their place. There's a few nods there. Number 4, don't say something that's ambiguous or hard to understand in the hope that it will be understood. Meaning, don't speak in a way that leaves yourself open to misinterpretation. Speak clearly, distinctly, not fuzzily. I happen to be a big fan of Facebook, YouTube, and they're always, you've probably seen many of them, there are always these senators or congresspeople that are grilling somebody who is invited to testify about some area or other. And they ask them very direct questions. Did you or did you not, da, da, da? Or they will say, this is a yes or no question. Here's the statement, yes or no. And then very often the answer is often an obfuscation. You don't even know what they just said. And the questioner will go back to, that's not what I asked you. Yes or no. Did you, blah, blah, blah. Well, in the annals of history, that very nice. Don't give us the, did you or, yeah. So teaching number 4 is don't be ambiguous. Don't be hard to understand. Don't leave yourself open to misinterpretation. And number 5, which is perhaps the most spiritual part of this teaching, don't say, when I have free time, I'll devote it to study and deeper spirituality. Don't say, when I have free time, I'll do all that spiritual stuff. Why? Because you may never have that free time. Not only you may never have the free time, you may never get the free time. Yep. So that's his five-parter. A lot of don'ts. Um, I think we have time to maybe do the first teaching of don't separate yourself from the community. This is a often quoted teaching in the Jewish community. When a rabbi, when a leader of a Jewish organization, when people want to get people on board with a good cause, a worthy cause, worthwhile, solid, they will make their pitch to their congregation, to their constituents, whoever it is, and they will often include this teaching. Don't separate yourself from the community. This is what we as a community need to do. Don't stay home. There's going to be a rally for whatever, for the benefit of the Jewish community. Don't stay home and say, ah, they don't need me, and 1,000 people will show up anyway. Don't separate yourself from the community. Get interested and involved in the joys as well as the troubles and challenges of the community in which you live. You don't ignore what's going on around you. Don't segregate yourself. Don't think it's not your business. So go to a rally, sign a petition, volunteer to visit the sick, collect funds for after school projects, whatever it is, whatever it is. Be active. If I could put it in two words, be active in your community. And don't say, well, there's a lot of people that do it. They don't need me. So they tell the story of a king or local whatever. Somebody was raised to the elevated to become the of that geographic area, whatever, the governor, the prince, you name it. And what they asked everybody to do was to bring the next day at 12, there's going to be a big vat in the middle of the town square. They asked everybody to please bring a glass of their finest wine that will be poured into the vat. Everybody's fine glass of wine will be poured into the vat at noon or so. And after that, they will open the spigot and everybody will be able to taste. They will get a little bit of that wine that is everybody's collected wine. And the assumption is that will be the most delicious wine because it's made out of the finest glasses of wine that everybody had. So, wow, what a thing this is going to be. Going to walk out with the best Chablis, the champagne, and Dom Perignon, whatever it is. This is big. Anyway, so people are bringing, and very interesting. Everybody thought to themselves, for me to bring my finest glass of wine, that costs a lot. It's probably more than I have. If I bring water, is anybody going to notice? 1,000 people, one glass of water, nobody's going to notice. The only problem is a lot of people thought that way. I don't have to bring my own red Chablis or whatever. Nobody's going to notice my glass of water mixed in with all those other glasses of wine. Well, you can guess the punchline. So it comes at 12 o'clock, everybody's pouring it in. They open up the spigot, and all there is water. Because everybody had that thought. My cup of wine is not needed because everybody else will bring it. So what's my little water going to be make a big difference? Yeah, I think in a nutshell, that's what this teaching is. Don't rely on others. It is up to you. Up to you. Be part of the community. Don't segregate yourself from the community. Jewish life is, by a high percentage, lived in the community. So Robert is going to pay a Shiva visit to somebody who's in mourning. That's part of being a member of the community, to be with people in their lows, in their mourning, in their challenges. That's part of it. It's also part of it to be part of a wedding. And there's a special mitzvah, a special commandment that when you go to a Jewish wedding, especially it's a commandment for Jewish people, when you go to a Jewish wedding, to do what you can to make the bride and groom happy. Why do I mention that? Because you may have seen footage, Facebook, whatever platform you enjoy being, you may have seen footage of like a very Jewish, religious, maybe Hasidic wedding. And there's the bride and the groom. They're sitting there and they're watching people do their dancing and whatever. And all of a sudden, somebody comes like with a juggler's outfit and they're juggling bottles. Then the next person comes into the middle of the circle there and is doing somersaults. And the next one is doing something else crazy. And the next one is doing something crazier than that. And you look at it and you say, what the heck is that? Like, who just opened up kindergarten? We're at a wedding. Why jumping around and schwitzing and why do we do that? And the answer is people try to make and put a smile on the face of the bride and groom. They should be smiling anyway, right? They just got married. Okay, could be tired. There's a lot of pressures, etc. But that's also part of being a part of the community. You be with the people in their lowest, and you make the people's highest even higher by helping them be joyous, appreciative, etc. So when the community is doing something and something good, and you know it's good, if it's immoral, you don't have to, you can segregate yourself from the community. If you feel something is not right or incorrect or immoral, or it's just not going to end up in a good place, and you really feel that strongly, it's up to you to say, I'm not going to go to that. But if you feel that something in your community is good and tasteful, and it's going to really, really help the community and help people in the community, you cannot close your eyes and pretend that it doesn't matter and it doesn't pertain to you. It pertains to you first, and then to everybody else second. You've got to feel that. So I'll close with this teaching. Very often, in the book of Deuteronomy, I don't remember the exact Torah portion of the week where this appears often. It says, if you find the lost article of your friend, there's a dog that's walking around, whatever, you don't know whose it is. Do what you can to find the owner. It could be a bag, it could be a wallet, whatever. And the Torah says the following: try to find whoever owns it. And it says in Hebrew, lo tuchal lehit alem. You are not permitted to hide your face from that need. So you see a wallet is on the ground, you're not permitted to just say, oh, I didn't see it. Because now you say to yourself, now that I did see it, I have to do something about it. I've got to make phone calls. Who needs it? Who needs it? No, you can't lehit alem. You can't hide your eyes from the urgent need to do something about this thing. It needs to be returned, and you saw it. You're the one that's got to deal with it. The word lehit alem, which literally means don't hide your face, has as its root the word olam, which in Hebrew means world, which means if you see a need, you can't become a world unto yourself. When you see something needs to happen, urgent, not urgent, whatever it is, you can't just become your own little world. You have to be part of the community, part of what's going on, and you can't hide your face as though it's not happening. Personally, I've taught that many, many different times in many different contexts. And again, much of Jewish life is lived within community. Jewish life often is a matter of community. So I think that's where we're going to stop at this point. But as always, anybody have any closing thoughts or questions or comments, reactions of that nature? Just want to remind you, next Wednesday night we will not be meeting. I'll write it again because it's the end of Rosh Hashanah. It'll end our time at about 8 p.m. So that'll make it very hard to teach a class at 8 p.m. And I'll probably be wiped by the end of the second day of Rosh Hashanah. It's a lot of hours in the synagogue, in prayer, meditation, all kinds of very serious things going on in the synagogue on Rosh Hashanah. So we won't meet next Wednesday, but God willing, I'm not sure if it's next and the following Wednesday. I have to check the calendar. I'll make sure to update everybody on the WhatsApp. But any closing thoughts, comments, questions, reactions? Yeah,
Real
John.
quick, Rabbi.
Sure.
piggybacking off what Robert was saying earlier,
Yeah.
and in kind of light of what happened with Charlie Kirk, the assassination, that sort of thing, it got us and our family talking about the soul, you
Oh,
know.
yeah.
And so I was thinking at some point in the future, it may be helpful for all of us if we could have a high level teaching on the soul and the different parts.
Oh,
Um, because, at least for me, we all, probably many of us on here still struggle with some baggage of former beliefs that's not rooted in Judaism. So
oh,
just to better
okay.
understand that, I think would be helpful as it's kind of relevant and practical with what's going on in society right now.
Okay. That would be a good session. I'm happy to do that. Just by a show of hands, would people be happy with a session on that topic? Okay, seeing that none of you are interested in that, we won't talk about no. Okay, it seems that you're not the only one, John, that's interested in that. So I'm happy to prepare a session on that. No problem. I haven't mentioned
And
anything about Charlie Kirk because I don't know how people feel about him. So I just I separate myself from the community. I don't know who. I don't know, and I don't feel like getting into a whole debate about him. But yeah, no, it was a terrible tragedy,
I
and
have something else too, Rabbi.
big friend of the Jews. At the very least, he was a big friend of the Jew and Israel.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So if he wishes to say something, I'm not sure if Brooke wants to comment on it, but we'd been talking privately that it would be nice to kind of maybe find out where everyone in the group is, like in their
Oh,
faith walk. Um, Brooke had brought that up. I thought it was a good idea to just comment about it, and because piggybacking off of what I just heard, I can't see the name there. We all come from different faith walks. We're all in different places, and so I think the weight of this Pirke Avot. Some of us have studied it. It's good to hear your thoughts on it, though. Like you're talking about, like the wine today. I mean, I'm like laughing inside. So like it's just very interesting to hear the different narratives. So that would be something that I wanted to say. Maybe Brooke would be able to comment on that. I'm not sure, but yeah.
Well, I had just mentioned to him it'd be kind of interesting just to see where everybody's at in a sense, and you're not too personal, right? But just an overview type of thing of because I'm sure we're all in different places and why we're here, right? Or how we came to be here, and that sort of thing. And yeah, I just thought it would be helpful for us to understand each other better too.
oh, okay. Is it something
Maybe
that you would want me to react to, or you just want to know where people are holding, as they say?
Yeah, no, just where where we're at in our life,
Okay.
when did we come
maybe
into this or maybe I've been in this for 10 years or whatever, I don't know, but it is just, that sort of thing.
Okay.
maybe it's
Yeah.
something we could comment in the group, kind of with our story,
Sure. Yeah.
in
Whatever
the
way
in
you
the in
feel
the
is,
group chat.
yeah. Yeah. And people, you can record, if it's too much to write, you can certainly leave a recording on the group chat if you want to do that. Yeah, I think it's a lovely idea. It's a way to get to know each other better. Um, you may also want to ask yourselves the question, do you have any need or desire to enlarge the group? Do you want another 20 on the group, or is this very nice? This is nice and fine, and we're not looking for numbers. We're happy. I'm very flexible. Whatever you think is, and if you do want more, how do you get more? I don't know. My wife could probably get involved in that. But all right, so we have two good focuses, foci. One is to talk more about the soul, the Jewish teachings of the soul, and the other one is to talk about where everyone's journey is at. Um, so that's great. Those are two great areas that will deepen our appreciation of each other and knowledge of each other. And yeah, I'm all for it. I'm all for both. Okay, anybody closing anything?
I just want to say, when it comes to community, I've been trying to build community amongst fellow like-minded people. I'll put it that way. And it's
Okay,
very, very difficult. And if you've never been in a community, like a Jewish community, for instance, since that's what we're kind of talking about, you don't really understand what community is, maybe in some ways,
yeah,
It's a difficult concept. And if you haven't been inside of a close-knit community, it's difficult to understand sometimes.
you're right. That's a good point. I'm looking at my wife wrote her new book in the series. It's called Adrift Among the Nations. Talking about those who may have rowed away from one shore, but haven't necessarily arrived at another shore, and in the middle, they feel adrift. So she's got several essays in there, and some of them are very local of people on this group. And yeah, so yep, you make a good point. There are those that have community, those are anxious to have community. Yeah. Anybody else that would like to say anything? So yeah. So listen, we say this to fellow Jews all the time that may God write, may you be written and inscribed in the book of life. The Jewish people believe, as reflected in our liturgy in our prayer book, that there are many universal things that are mentioned on our Rosh Hashanah prayers, acknowledging God as the King over all the earth. And it often speaks about the nations. And it also, we have a teaching that says that God judges everybody on Rosh Hashanah. It's an interesting question. Why did nobody tell the non-Jews? How come nobody told the non-Jews that Rosh Hashanah, according to us, is also for them? I have no answer to that. I don't know why that didn't happen. But to the extent that you may feel that Rosh Hashanah is a universal commemoration, I pray that all of us be written and inscribed, written on Rosh Hashanah, inscribed 10 days later on Yom Kippur with the seal that all of us have been inscribed for a good year, a happy year, a healthy year, a spiritual year, and we should all hope that our noble prayers should find their mark in heaven, and they should all be answered for the good. So I wish you and your families, my pleasure. You and your family should be well, and I'll update you as to the next time we're going to be meeting. All righty. Have a good, thanks for being here today. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All righty.
Voto.